Hello and welcome back to the Welsh Women's Rugby Appreciation Podcast. My name is Hugh and I am once again joined by the usual suspects, all of whom are captains, some are doctors, some are seniors. We're all desperately underpaid working in STEM. And they are, I just realized that Harley's changed his name, but it is Harley. It is Harley, Shan, and Julia, although Harley, for the sake of this podcast, is being known as the Jazz Joyce Butchers Fan Club. Which we'll get into in a second. A reminder for anybody who's watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you enjoy the show, please share a link with your friend. It really helps us out. Leave a comment. If you've got any thoughts on the topics that we discussed, we will read them and we will reply. And if you're listening to the audio version, please make sure you give us a 5-star review and leave us a comment there as well. We'll probably reply to you there as well. Let's make a start. So, anybody, it's Olympics time. How has everybody been enjoying the Olympics?
Love the Olympics. All of it. I love all of the Olympics, to be fair. I'm a big Olympics fan. I watch it all, I have all of the sports. I suddenly become an expert in canoeing. I'm that kind of person. Yeah. But I love it all.
Most fun way to be, same way I'm experiencing it. Of course, I have a few rugby specific comments. I'm sure you can't tell by my accent, just a few, but otherwise it's been going great. All the games have been fantastic. Paris did a great job, which of course this podcast would hate to hand anything to Paris, but been doing pretty great.
Wearing a Paris top. Wearing a Paris.
Oh, that's true. That's true. You are a Welsh who likes France for some reason.
A Welsh that likes France.
A Welsh.
A Welsh.
I like France. I love France.
That's true, actually. You guys are both breaking the mold.
I've promised to go to Bordeaux to visit someone there and they love a bit of rugby in Bordeaux, so I definitely want to do it.
That is
Harley, are you a Olympics nut?
I won't go as far as Olympics nut. I do like watching, and there's a few events I do look forward to. The slalom, kayaking, canoe, and stuff. But
it's the track and field.
An awful lot of it. And rugby sevens and climbing, which are two of my other big sports I love. Now it's just glued, and it's just on all the TVs everywhere. After training yesterday, we were there watching the men's 800 meters freestyle, and they're just discussing the whole event.
My favorite is the velodrome cycling, especially the eliminator one.
Yes, I love that.
That's the most exciting sport in the world.
That's a very European UK one. I completely forgot about it until it was some video that Sail Sharks had done, but I was impressed by how many of their players were like, I'm really excited for like the cycling in the circle or whatever. And I was like, I don't know if we have anybody who does that. However, I am also the one who's like, I'm so stoked for skateboarding, which is a bunch of teenage girls. And it is my absolute favorite. I love skateboarding. Super stoked the second half is coming up in the next day.
What time is it on for you? Like when it finishes, is that like midday-ish?
It's ideal for me, honestly, because I wake up and about 8 a.m. our time, which is 6 hours behind France, everything starts. I don't know why. I don't know. I've been asking everybody, but I'm like, were people really playing rugby at 11 p.m.? But I guess so.
In France, they kick off rugby matches at 10 p.m. on Thursday nights, professional rugby matches.
I have no idea.
And they have like 20,000 people in the crowd.
Yeah, 9 a.m. That's why a lot of the World Cup fixtures were kicking off at 9 a.m. At 9 p.m. even. That was. And they love a late night. Great.
For the first few days, I figured that I had to be watching it on some kind of delay, but no, it's been fantastic. The only thing that was unfortunate was the USA Soccer, which I'm sorry, but I do watch. Did kick off just an hour ago against Australia. We were winning when I left, so They
need a shortened version of soccer for the Olympics. I'm sorry, it's too long.
So it's so interesting you say that. I've been seeing that everywhere, but it's been mostly us saying it, and rich for us to say because that is what they did. They gave us sevens, but a lot of people were saying futsal, and I was like, yeah. That'd be a lot of fun. I understand the draw for 11 aside, like it's the global game, it's the Jogo Bonito, but I would really like to watch more than one a day.
Yeah.
My thought on that, like with football, is, and similar with things like tennis. I thought that the whole idea with the Olympics is almost the thing I love about it. Is it sort of it opens you up to sports you don't necessarily get attention,
and you get little bites of each.
That doesn't need to grow. It's football.
Yeah, exactly.
Completely agree.
Shan, is it mad times in the BBC at the moment? Is it just wall-to-wall panic stations?
It's been like this for ages now. We've had like I can't even remember everything that's happened.
We were
that's
already
been going
having
on.
problems.
We had the election, we had Glastonbury. Well, there was other stuff going on. The Euros, Wimbledon, and then the Olympics. We're all a bit like, quite fatigued now.
And they don't even let you say that you work for BBC Sport. You work for all the BBC, so you have to care about the boring stuff.
Yeah, your Doctor Who was on. That was a big deal.
Hey, don't go disparaging Doctor Who now.
I've been a staunch defender of the most recent series of Doctor Who. It wasn't perfect. By God, it was a lot better than the ones that came before it.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot better written. I think it went back. It's found its right tone again.
Yeah.
But no, right. This is nominally.
Guys, we're alienating the jobs. We're alienating the jobs.
Alienating. I see what you did there, Julia.
Yeah. And on that incredibly neat link, let's talk about the rugby. So it's been Olympic sevens. Everybody's loved it. Julia, talk to us a bit about, in the women's game, how much more important sevens is to rugby as a whole compared to the men's. Right? In men's, I think it's fair to say it's a bit of a side quest. Whereas in the women's, like the concentration of the elite players that we've seen in this tournament, it feels like a much bigger deal. Is that fair to say?
Definitely. And especially, I referenced it, but, of course we do need to talk about USA and Canada. But absolutely, it's the main answer is that it's more accessible. You need fewer people, and that's, of course, one of the main things that has hampered women's growth in North America, is that for a very long time, it was hard to have 15 people appear at once, even on your college team. So if you're only able to get 14 or 15 people, you can play sevens. You can't play 15s. You can barely scrimmage and do drills. There's much more there. There's also the unfortunately still very large part that there is professionalism in America, and it also had many international players come play in the Premier Rugby Sevens, the PR Sevens. It was the first non-test global professional league, and it got the likes of Ruby Tui. I think like Stacey Waka came. A bunch of people came through. Something like 11 of the people in the wider squad all played PR Sevens. It's a place where you could make money and play rugby as a woman. There are very few places you can do that. In fact, I know we're going to have to touch on GB Sevens, and the money is a big part of that question. And you can look at, for example, GB versus the promotion of USA and Canada in what the union finds the most important and where they are directing their women, and the heavy importance.
It's hard with Team GB though, because it's not just one union, is it? And there's always that little bit of a conflict.
Absolutely. And that's something we can talk about here, but you guys know as well as I do that that's actually a topic that, depending on who you bring that up to, people will actually argue it with you, that they tend to usually be English, but that's the only way that it could go. Scotland couldn't put up their own, Wales couldn't put up their own. What we know from...
We're not allowed to in the Olympics. Oh, never mind.
Right. Well, it's true that we're not, though, but I personally don't know why that is. I've always known that's the case, and we've only had sevens there since 2016, but I actually don't really understand why you couldn't if you wanted. I understand that Wales and Scotland don't have enough of their own money or infrastructure to really put something together, but
I think it's a whole wider question about, because Wales isn't technically its own country, I guess. Is it to do with that?
I guess, but then why are there Wales athletes?
I think it's because at the Olympics, sorry to speak over you. At the Olympics, you enter as Team GB, so you can't be like GB and everything else, and then in the individual countries in that. And I guess when it comes to the funding of all the other sports, they're not going to fund Welsh cycling or Welsh swimming. It's going to be Team GB, and they get a lot of money from the lottery, I think. That's how.
Yeah, I don't think the home unions are one. I think they're scared of. It happened in the football, didn't it? I think they did it in
2012. They did it, yeah.
But they're not keen on having like a Team GB football team, because I think they're scared of will lose the Wales football team and Scotland will lose Scotland, because other countries might be like, why are they're allowed to, they have a Team GB team. So I think there's other issues. Rugby obviously is a little bit different because there aren't so many teams in rugby, whereas in football
and there is semi-precedent for it with the Lions as well. So it's not mental.
It's really it's complicated.
Yeah, because you've got the Commonwealth Games where we do compete as individual countries.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to...
In the Euros as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's just basically money. I think it's just money. That's what it is.
Probably.
So, Sian, I think the addition of the Olympics, the sevens to the Olympics has been a huge hit. What about sevens do you think makes it so appealing, and what makes it the kind of thing of, because I know you watch a lot of sevens because you put me down brutally when I said I was surprised about China, and you said any idiot knew that China was coming. All you have to do is know a bit about sevens like I do.
After she said that, I went and looked at what has been happening in the past few stops on the sevens circuit, and I was like, she's right. She's dead right. I don't know how I'm sorry, go on, Sean.
So are you like a normal sevens fan? So are we all like crashing your party?
I wouldn't say I was like I prefer sevens to 15s. I don't know. I think if it's on, I get interested in it. And I think that they've done quite a good job on social media over the last couple of years, where they've really been pushing a lot of the sevens tournaments in like Hong Kong and everything. And I've been watching a lot of clips, and you're like, oh, this is really good. And you kind of get into it that way. And I think I think that's, again, power of social media. We'll probably go on to that a bit later on. But I think
Sean would prefer any rugby that is all backs.
That's not actually true. That's not true.
Because you need somebody
as well, like all Cardiff fans.
I absolutely love a back row. Scrum
and you need someone to blame the knock-ons on. I know.
I love a good war of attrition. 3-0. Love those games.
Oh yeah, proper rugby.
I actually do. I mean, like, that's what I like about rugby. You have those games, and then you have the running rugby. Sevens. I love sevens, and I think it's appealing because it is that kind of quick, fast. It is a lot more fluid. You don't have so many stoppages. The actual games are shorter. There's a lot about it that fits in, as Julia mentioned earlier, about how you can have more than one game in a day. You can have like multiple games. It fits all that it fits very well with TV and like a whole day event. And I think that is what's really appealing to it. And I think that's obviously showing now in the Olympics why it fits the Olympics so well. It's like, it's perfect. Like, you couldn't have 15s in the same way.
No.
Yeah, I mean, even though ticket sales are, very low on any of our priorities as like rugby fans, there even is something to be said. I have a friend in Paris who is mostly a soccer fan, but watches rugby enough. Definitely, she's an Antoine Dupont fan. She's French. But the way that they convinced her to get tickets was just like, when you go, you're not just going to watch one match and leave. You're going to get to watch 4 matches. You're going to get to watch the whole heat, or whatever round it is, quarterfinals, semis, whatever. And you can do that. That's not just an Olympic thing. You can do that with any sevens. And in fact, I had mentioned the PR sevens in America. That was the big draw that got a lot of people to even attend it, because it's not something people would attend naturally. But just the promise of, you can see a bunch of different teams and you can see all of the stars in 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah. I think sometimes, like, I when I grew up with rugby, sevens was quite looked down upon a lot. And I think in Wales it was never really taken that seriously. I think Wales like occasionally put a team out in championships with very didn't really take it seriously. And I think, like, I can just remember my dad, he'll probably have a go at me now for saying this, but I remember my dad said, "Oh, John I sevens, you miss a tackle and then someone scores. It's like basketball scores." And he didn't like that high scoring kind of nature of it. But I don't actually think that's true. I think, like, a lot of the games that we saw at the Olympics were actually quite close. It's not necessarily a case of, someone misses a tackle and they score.
Well, you asked me what the importance is of sevens, and that's actually a big importance, I think, of sevens. Yeah. He's right saying that, it's kind of like basketball. They break away once and they score. That's really fun to watch. And all four of us here are first longtime rugby fans. We are also all 15s fans. Most of the planet who isn't a rugby fan at all doesn't care about 15s. We're not trying to wrench them away from 15s. Sevens is trying to wrench us away, us in this chat, people like us. But when we're talking about growing the game, why wouldn't a brand new fan want to go for the one that you can explain in 10 minutes? You can start watching it, and like we just said, you can watch 5 or 6 matches in a row. And by the end, you understand how the game works and you're excited and you have a few favorite players.
It's a really good point. Really good point.
Why would they jump into the messy mire that we have as 15s fans?
Yeah.
Well, it's a hard place to break into. We're very cliquish. There are some very old fights that some of us don't even know why we're fighting anymore. The old rivalries like that. Sevens is a new place where they are growing the fan base, they are growing the number of competitors, and you can get in right now and you don't feel like an outsider.
What were you going to say, Harley? Jump in there, mate.
I was just going to jump on the whole like with the it's really quick and easy to explain the rules, and one of the things I just want to say is from the BBC's comms from it when they were they were quite happy to show the men's all the way through before the proper Olympics started, because the men weren't they didn't need proper Olympic time. The women's got the place in the actual event, but they were so clear in how they were explaining rules and like saying, oh well, you don't need to do this because of this or that. And I thought, that was because one of the big arguments always seems to be when you're watching 15s is commentators either assuming you know everything and condescend you if you don't know, or they treat you like you have no knowledge of what even a ball is. But I thought they actually pitched it perfectly, like as someone who's who knows the laws. But I thought actually that's a really good way of explaining it. It's probably going to change how I explain it to when people I know who don't watch rugby.
A conversation that you and I have had before about TMOs, and we talked about how in rugby league they're just like, okay, show the replay, what's happening? All right, that's the decision. They managed to do that in the sevens as well, which is something that a lot of people have praised.
Yeah, well, you kind of have to, because if you took as long as they do in some of the 15 decisions, that's almost the same as a half, and you just can't afford to be dealing with.
But that's a beautiful thing about how they have structured these sevens. I don't know if this is, I feel silly, but I don't know if it's across the board for other sevens, if it's this way on the 7 series. But at the Olympics, the only thing the TMO could do was a grounding decision. The TMO didn't come in for and
high shots.
Of course,
I think they did.
And high shots.
I think they can call in and say, because there were a couple of, because I think in the final, the Portia Woodman one.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that one.
Oh, good. Then
that came into the ear.
Yeah,
that
good.
Came into
I'm
the
glad. But to that.
But then
point,
they had the footage queued up, ready to go, and said,
yeah,
exactly. They have so many things in place to keep things rolling, and for better or for worse, you could see that with the refereeing as well. It was very clear that they went into this with the intention of like, we're going to make this a spectacle. We're going to give the rugby fans what they want, but we're going to like really aim for new people. We're going to make people personalities. We were talking about Ilona. Sevens has given much more leeway and given or offered much more to new fans, I feel, than 15s has in the same window of time.
Well, let's talk about it then. So this was going to be later in the script, so I'll bump it up because it's flowing nicely. So the chat since the end of particularly the women's final has been about the growth that sevens at the Olympics can offer rugby as a whole. We've seen the clip of the Ireland rugby player above the heads, which there was also a clip of that of Sia Khaleesi and Jessie Creel.
Because God forbid you forget that South Africa plays rugby.
Do you know they've won 4 World Cups? Anyway,
I had no idea.
Move on. I really like South Africa. I don't want to make any enemies. Okay, so do we think this can happen? Because a lot of people have pointed to the attendance in the ground, and for me, that's not, in my personal opinion, that's not the main acid test. It's an Olympic event. People are going to go to it, whatever it is. Like we said, people who never watch kayaking, people who never watch whatever, watch it avidly during the Olympics. So for me, that's not the acid test. For me, the social media interaction and things that we've seen off the back of it. And Julia, without talking too much about the actual events on the pitch, because we'll come to that in a minute, but USA getting bronze, from speaking to you, has been a big deal, and the China team doing well has been a big deal, and those are 2 huge markets that rugby hasn't really taken off in yet. So this is kind of the doorway for those guys, isn't it?
It absolutely is, and I know that already the rugby sphere seems to be kind of getting tired of it and going like, okay, we get it, be quiet now. But no, this is actually a huge thing. I understand it's easy to roll your eyes about America. There's a lot about us to dislike, totally. However, we have a lot of money. We have a lot of people who love sport, and women's sport is experiencing a giant wave right now in America. There is absolutely no reason to not at least try to tap into it. And we've seen a lot of creators, especially, I mean, we're all on Twitter, many of us are on Instagram. There are creators that we know of who have kind of always languished in the freelance world or whatever, and they're finally getting bigger offers. That's important because those people already have that built-in rugby fan audience. It's easier to build when you already have a bit of groundwork. USA already has a bit of groundwork. We also have a bunch of young girls who would really like a contact sport. We have NFL, gridiron, whatever you'd like to call it. We have that for young boys. What we've seen in the last 24 to 48 hours, especially since the medal, is that there have been and I've gotten it a lot myself, and I'm definitely one of the like absolute smallest women's rugby creators in America. But we've all gotten reached out, especially bigger names like Scrum Half Connection, reached out with like, where can I find a club near me? How do I go watch live rugby? It's unfortunate that they're all asking about sevens, and we have to tell them there isn't really live sevens to watch in that way. Well, no, it's really sucked having to tell a lot of my fellow Americans, like, just so you know, none of us get to see sevens live unless you go to LA. But maybe in the future, because the one thing that I will give us credit for as a nation and as a sporting nation is that we move fast. In the wake of that bronze medal win, Michelle Kang came and gave them $4 million. She said, I liked what I saw. Here's $1 million a year. Do whatever you need to do with it. Get us silver. Well, she said, get us gold at Los Angeles. And the rest of us said, well, New Zealand will still be there, but we will try.
Home Olympics,
yeah,
got it.
Exactly. But that's the thing, though. And that is something that America does well. And so does Canada. It's going to be a big deal to have WXV in Vancouver. Vancouver is a rugby hotbed. China, I really wish I knew more about. I think that there's probably, I mean, there's a language barrier and then there are cultural barriers, but I'd really like to learn more about that one too. We don't really know what the rugby culture is like in China at all. But there's certainly money in China, and there's certainly places that you can make rugby stops. They already stop in Hong Kong. It's not far.
It's really not far. I've
it's
been
really
doing
not.
research into it, and it's getting less far every day.
It is. And you know, we people who love rugby like this, we hesitate to kind of put put too much of an emphasis on the money that you can make or the money that it will cost. Although I will say in men's 15s, we're talking about money all the time. So I don't really think it's that gauche to talk about it here.
God, we're talking about money all the time.
All the time. And people just really don't like talking about women earning money for sports. I don't know why.
In general, to be honest.
In general, I know, but Hugh said no politics this episode.
Sorry.
No. But that is something, and going back to it, why it would grow here is because there are places that you can play sevens and make money. That's one nice thing. But even just the idea of like, you could potentially medal in this sport that for some people before this games, for other people before 2016, didn't know existed. And, you know, I can't say for sure that this is going to cause some giant surge of rugby players, but if we're judging by what new fans have been saying so far and the prolonged kind of sustained interest that people are having, people coming to websites, people crashing, I found out that a bunch of like local clubs in various big cities are like, our website crashed. Great, go crash more websites, please do. We want to share rugby.
I think the thing that you said is the thing. Off the back of this, people want to play rugby, but they want to play sevens. So if you're a smart rugby club right now, we need to put
this is only because they don't know that 15s exists. That's the one problem that we are having, is that it is true that a lot of the people that we talk to, especially people who are like reaching out to their local clubs, the local clubs are saying, yeah, absolutely, come play with us. We play 15s, not sevens. It won't look exactly like what you saw. However,
but
it's
I think
equally fun.
Surely the same people could put on a sevens thing. I mean, come on.
No, but that's the thing is you can, and there's room for that. It's only been 24 hours since any of this happened. There's absolutely room for it. What we really need is the money, and we need people.
Yeah.
America has everything else we need. We have the infrastructure if we want it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Exactly.
So much
really,
potential.
Exactly. So it's really just finding the right place to catch the wave and ride it in.
Yeah.
And that's what we're all searching for right now.
For me, it's gonna be all down marketing, and it's gonna be a case of you saw these people and playing in sevens. Now watch them play in the full game.
And that's why it's
You've
such a
never heard
gift
of
to
Hampton
have people
DuPont?
like Ilona.
This is what he's like playing for Toulouse.
Exactly.
I mean,
And
a lot of local clubs in Wales do their own sevens tournaments anyway, as part of an intro. Same as they run touch sessions. It's to get people into it, and then as you're sort of like, yeah, all right, I'm enjoying the run, and it's trying to get them. You're giving them little bits, and you're like, oh, well, here you go. Here, here's just some catch and pass. All you're doing to tackle is touching them. Fine. Oh, and then you start playing, and then it gets a little bit more physical, and then it gets a bit physical. Then you're tackling. Then you're doing something a bit more like sevens, and then you're like, well, hang on. Well, no, we'll introduce the fuller game. Maybe people are like, maybe sevens isn't for me. I'm not that quick. Nothing. Well, do you know what? 15 is a bit slower. There's still a chance to have those exciting tries.
Exactly.
But for you.
And for your young daughter with a different body, because of course as an adult you look at your kids, you're like, I don't really think you're probably going to be a world-class sprinter, but you look like you could grow up to be strong. You seem to like doing that sort of thing. You're looking for contact. I don't know, I saw these sevens players doing it. I'm going to reach out to my local club or to somebody on, these days it'll probably be like, I'll reach out to somebody on Twitter. I'll reach out to Scrum Queens and see if there's a club near me. And when you go to the club, like, the club is going to take care of you. We know what rugby people are like. We want to talk about it. Those clubs are going to say, well, we've got this X, Y, and Z. We've got minis, we've got youth, we've got women's, we've got men's. This one's a social league. This one is competitive. We are not a shy bunch. I'm not really worried about getting people over to 15s, especially because there are a lot of people built like me who want to play rugby. I know, looking at sevens, I can't play that. But I would have no problem asking, like, is there a rugby for me? Because people like Ilona have already said it. And luckily at this time, the 7 stars all started in 15s anyway. So when they tell their story, they talk about playing in college, and that's 15s.
I think for me, Elmer from Good Scouts Rugby, who I think we all love, tweeted ages ago that women's rugby will make more money than men's rugby. And
she called it in 2023.
For a while, I was like, yes, the growth is there, but it's got a long way to go. But then when you realize that women's rugby has the potential to break markets like the USA and China and Brazil, you think about the traditional rugby markets, the biggest ones are France, South Africa, and UK. They've got
all places hard to make money in, by the way.
They've got populations of 60 million-ish each. The USA has got 350 million. 350 million people there, and then you chuck in Brazil and China, and it's game over. That's it. There's difference. So that for the first time, I can say, like, I can see it by being in these different markets. Women's rugby has the potential to be something that men's rugby has tried to be and failed, to be honest, or at time of recording.
There is also something to be said for the differences between what male athletes are like and what female athletes are like and what they're looking for. Going back, sorry, only because she's talked about it so much, but Ilona has talked about how women have been hesitant to play rugby because they're worried about getting too bulky, or they're worried they're going to get hurt. Sevens is the kind of thing, is a gateway that you can offer. There's a lot to be said for sevens as a tool, even if you are ultimately trying to grow 15s. I feel like getting people to talk about rugby at all in these markets, in China, in Canada, here, Brazil, it's hard enough to get people to talk about it because it's not hockey in Canada, it's not soccer in Brazil. If you get them to...
Sorry, go on. No, I interrupted you. Sorry.
No. So I lost my train of thought. Go on.
Oh no, I was just going to say this is why social media is just so important, and like
exactly. And that's where you find young girls. Sorry, that's where you find them.
It totally is. And we mentioned Ilona, but she's so engaging, and the whole. I was loving the USA Instagram.
Yeah, with Snoop, with posts. Jason Kelsey, with all these people.
Oh my God,
like, I just want to come
that.
and party. I just want to come and party. I really like that they have a shirt with their faces on it. I just think about, like, I never saw anybody wearing an Antoine Dupont button-down Hawaiian shirt. That would be really funny. That would probably go viral. Like, I understand that going viral is cringe to, like, older men, fine. You don't have to. Let somebody like Elma or Stella Mills
so
go viral
important, though.
instead. Yeah, just let
It's
them do
actually
it.
really important.
They will bring you people. That's what
Yeah.
we
Holly,
want to
you've
do.
got a few Hawaiian shirts, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why you're assuming I would
whose-
have them, but
whose-
yes, I do.
whose
I do
head-
have a few.
whose head
They're
is
a
on them.
men's thing. Well, they're not just a men's thing, but you know what I mean.
I'll be honest, the one thing I'm gutted is I did not buy the Fijian rugby one from the World Cup. I was so close to part my money, and I didn't.
Dragons do one. Have you seen the Dragons one?
No.
Yeah,
Haven't seen that one.
it's not Stitch, pun intended, on the Fijian rugby one.
Well, you're going to have to make one yourself, just like Ilona Maheris' dad did. And judging by the name on your account right now, it's going to have to be either Jazz Choice or Alicia Butchers.
We need Leslie.
The only problem
to do it on her.
it's
We
fine when
will.
you're
We
the
will.
dad
We're
of
going to
a
hit
player
Leslie.
or a relative or the significant other. I feel like if I did it, I just look like a creepy
Sir,
stalker.
you need to leave. Sir, they've asked you to leave the stadium. You're making
Wasn't
them
that a story?
uncomfortable.
Wasn't that a story on Good Scars Rugby where they were wearing each other? Like, there was a guy wearing a shirt and he was like, no, it's fine. It's just my dad.
Yes, it was Ilona Mar. Although I will say a few other people on the team have them, but of course people aren't talking about them. But Sammy Sullivan's family all had Sammy Sullivan shirts as well. But yes, Ilona Mars was the one because they came up and they were like, "Sir, like that's a little bit too much. We're worried that you're going to make her uncomfortable." And she came up, she was like, "That's my dad. Don't worry about it.
Just being made uncomfortable by him.
Do not take him to jail."
Making a mental note not to wear an Alcal shirt or our Alcal.
You can't. They're going to get us kicked out.
Yeah.
Which sucks because we've already made them.
No.
Stalker or Dad. Stalker or Dad is the new game show. Right,
let's
talk about
when my daughter starts playing rugby for Wales, then we're fine.
Yeah.
I'm not putting any pressure on her at all, but she has definitely got the attitude of a old school bruiser number 8. Yeah. Just the way she runs through objects to get to what she wants.
We like that. We like that.
I was going to say, if there is any kind of rugby player that Wales women develop, it is back rows that will crush you.
Yeah. Speaking about some of the rugby that happened on the pitch then, so New Zealand got the gold, defended their title. Someone else who defended her title was New Zealand's Portia Woodman. We won't mention the fact that she probably should have been sent off. The GOAT of the women's game? Fair to say?
Yeah.
Yeah,
right now, so. Yeah. You had it actually, Hugh, so I need you to tell us again, but you actually did the count of all of the things that she has accomplished.
It wasn't even all of them. It was just the main
I think
highlights.
She is the most medalled rugby player.
So all the things that you would want to win as a rugby player, she won them twice.
She has won them
it's insane.
Twice.
His stats are incredible.
She's 38 tries in 25 games for the Black Ferns, 15.
20 Olympic tries. We've only been in the Olympics 3 times.
She's got 20 World Cup tries, 15's World Cup tries. She got 8 tries against Hong Kong and 13 in one tournament. Like,
I mean, that does say a bit about Hong Kong women at that time. But moving on, I mean, you can only play.
No one else scored them. She scored them. The other people on her team
scored
them. She scored them.
That's the thing is, she was also playing on a team with like Michaela Blyde, and even still, so. Definitely something to be said there.
Like I said, she's only played 25 games of international 15s.
Yeah.
She's played 240 games of 7s and scored 250 tries.
It's nuts.
I scored 2 tries in my entire professional career in 15s. So yeah, up there with GOAT. No, I mean, in terms of how long she played, New Zealand is going back quite a while. New Zealand has a lot of long-lasting women's players, but even still, I think she's pushing 40, which is insane considering the shape that she's in and these tries that she still scored.
I just remembered.
But I mean,
so slightly Portia Woodman related. So they did the haka at the end, and this is something I know nothing about. Is it a special lady haka, or is it just a variant one?
It was written by I don't know who the elder is, but it was by an elder from one of their families or their groups. I don't want to call it wrong. Iwi might be the thing, and I might be wrong. Sorry, New Zealand. Yes, it was written by somebody who matters very much to them, who has the authority to bestow haka on teams.
That's so cool.
It is cool, and I think it changes. I don't know how often it changes, but I know that it is narrative. It's about whatever they've done for the past whatever seasons or years, which is the coolest thing ever. And And then also it makes like the most badass stills I've ever seen. Photo images of just like the sickest thing I've ever seen.
The All Blacks changed up their hacker this year as well. That was cool.
Yeah.
I think they change them all the time.
For me. So,
sorry, what?
We had a New Zealand teaching assistant back when I was in primary school, and she said that, back then she said that women aren't allowed to do the haka. It's the man's warrior dance. So the fact that they're even allowed to do it just shows a huge that to me is a huge cultural shift anyway.
Yeah,
but yeah, they're
definitely.
It is in the last time
stories, although nothing for me matches the sippy toe, but that's a different debate for another day.
I like the normal hacker the best. I'm sorry. I know that's not
like
cool.
a classic
I know it's cool to like one of the other ones, but I just like the normal one best. I'm sorry.
The Tonga sippy toe is just amazing.
That is cool.
I just think it's better than any of the hackers.
I also love the Uganda women's sevens team that dances after, and it's a traditional Ugandan dance, but it looks like a party. So
apparently they have some traditional dances at Bordeaux as well, but it's not the rugby players who do it. It's some other people who can do it.
Oh, okay. I was worried that you were going to say that they do it with not enough clothes to discuss.
That's not for me to judge what's enough clothes and what isn't.
What goes on in the changing room stays in the changing room.
Listen, that's not our business.
So the silver medal winners were Canada. Canada making second best their thing this year. Fantastic season they've had. The Pac-4 title and now this. I think is it fair to say that getting into the final was an incredible achievement? Who did they beat? They beat Australia. And who else on the way there? Was it France they beat as well? I think it was.
They did beat France. I just don't remember if it was in the knockout rounds, but they definitely played France. I think it might have been the quarterfinal.
I think beating Australia was a massive result. Australia are a good side, a really good side.
I thought they were going to walk it.
Two matches for Australia in a row that you would not have expected to go the way they did. I understand just from reading stuff that the overwhelming feeling on that team is not good. Heads aren't going to roll. I don't think Australia isn't a really reactive union like that, but I can't imagine.
Coach on the sideline looked broken.
It looked not good.
It.
Rugby Australia isn't in the best shape though, is it? In general,
no. That's what I mean. Is the overwhelming conversation is not good.
Yeah. Well, the Wallaroos got absolutely battered by them. Yeah. No, exactly. Good point, Sean. It's very similar to Wales, and but the thing with USA, when you beat them, was the players were already crying before the ball was dotted down. That's the thing about the sevens, is they knew it was over, and it was.
I don't know if you guys saw, because I think it was just reported like an hour or two ago. I think I just saw it mindlessly scrolling. The story there is Spiff Cedric thought that her try was the winner. So she started celebrating, and everyone was like, "You need to kick," and that's why you'll see her. She was going like this, and then she was like, and then they immediately panned to the U.S. on the sidelines. A few people were crying, and then there was Sammy Sullivan, and unfortunately, they got her really tight in a close up of her going, "Shut up, shut the fuck up, everybody,
I saw that,
which was very American, and to me, I was just like, God bless America. That's right. Shut up, everybody, shut up. Okay, we won. Okay, we got.
I love it.
It was. It still got me to tear up.
So come on. Talk about the USA winning bronze then.
Okay, thank you. It was amazing. I have cried at very few rugby anything, and no other sport has ever touched me anything like rugby. It was amazing. I was probably among the almost entirely US fan base that thought there was no way. I remember I was in chat with you guys where it was a safe place to say, where I kept going Doomer over and over, because first we thought we were going to get to play
that graph was like, we're so back, it's over.
Yeah, exactly.
Back. It is over.
I'm so glad you brought that one up, because I was going to reference it, and then I was like, well, this is an auditory medium, so probably don't mention a meme we're not even going to flash on the screen. But yeah, it was so over. We're so back. We're so over. And it did feel that way, and especially after the match ended the way that it did. In the France-Canada match, and then I don't remember what ended up.
Oh no, it was Canada beat Australia, and I was
like, Canada beat Australia, right? So I thought that we were gonna exactly. So I thought, oh no, I mean, I wish I could say that I was one of the people who's like, I knew we'd do it all along. I didn't think that this was going to happen. You can see by the score that it almost didn't. But truly, and we've touched on it already, so I won't hammer it too much, but what it means in America is more than I think most people from rugby nations understand, because this is in no way a rugby nation. We're getting close. It's really nice now that everybody isn't automatically calling us tier 2 because our men are tier 2. We haven't been tier 2 in a while. We're in WXV. But in terms of the view that America has had of rugby players and what they think rugby is, because it's an import. People have wrong ideas about it. They have what they've seen in movies and TV, and maybe they've seen Invictus. But no, still, truly, a lot of people have told people like Ilona Maheris, like Sammy Sullivan, when they say I play rugby for the national team, that I didn't even know girls played rugby. We still hear that a lot. I saw some people arguing about that on Twitter as recently as a few days ago, that it was just like, well, I run a men's club, and when we say that we have a women's side, nobody has ever seemed surprised. Yes, they are. I think it has reached a lot of people who didn't know that rugby was there for them. I think it showed us, and I know that it had the same effect in Canada, hopefully more so, that it is a place that you will be welcome, that there are a lot of characters. There are a lot of sports that seem kind of hard to break into, or that maybe aren't that social, or that you feel are, I think of like rowing, and I think of those girls in college. When I knew a lot of rowers, but it was just like, you can't come to their parties. You can't talk to them. All right, you got to get up at 5 a.m.
In the UK,
Rugby,
you don't even know where the parties are happening. They happen
exactly.
in Oxford and Cambridge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it really is. And a lot of sports have kind of become like that. Some sports are, some sports are doing really great with it. Soccer has always done really great with it around the world. They have the benefit of being the most popular sport on the planet, but you know what I mean? I really can't, I don't know, I can't overstate enough without starting to sound soppy that it really will change things. I mean, some billionaire coming and just dumping money is wild. It wasn't even something that was on our radar, and you could see it if you see the video of Michelle King announcing it. I will also add that she happens to own my local soccer team that I support quite a lot, and that makes me so happy. I hope it means maybe we get a pro team here. That'd be awesome. A pro team that's good. Sorry, I know we have one for men and it's bad. But I say all of that because I don't think I'm alone. I think there are a lot of women in their 30s and 40s who are seeing this, and they're really excited because it means that like they can bring their daughters or their nieces or their neighbors' kids or whatever. They see that rugby could be something. It isn't just something that you did in college and had fun with and never got to do again.
I do think similar happened in Wales last year, the previous Six Nations. I do think something similar happened on a much smaller scale. But I think Wales doing well in the Six Nations. I saw a lot of my friends, people who never really admitted that they liked rugby before, saying, "Oh, I really like the rugby. I wish I could have played," and all this kind of stuff.
Exactly.
It's things like that, and it's that representation, I think.
Exactly, and to bring up Wales, in fact, even though we are going to have to talk about GB's performance, apart from the performance as a team, though, Jazz specifically, I think, has been super visible. She's been super visible. She's been doing really great press. I think not just press. Yep. She's always been chatty, but she does really good press. She gives great interview. And the number one thing is that she's really proud to be from St. David's. She'll talk about it all the time. You can be from a tiny village. You can have a hot wife who's also really good at rugby. Yeah. I think that's a little microcosm of like, we can have that, Ilona Maheris even, she's also from a small town in a small state. Definitely didn't come from like some rugby powerhouse. She played for Quinnipiac, which is a good rugby university, but there are a few universities that are kind of known for pumping out players. She's not from one of those. You can be anybody, and I think this exact games brought it out and said, consider rugby. Your kid can do it. It's not that unreachable. And also now there's something to aim for.
Mm.
You're on mute, Hugh.
Oh, you're on mute.
Hugh, you're on mute.
Sorry, I was saying something fantastic and fascinating.
Really profound.
Yeah.
You have to give it to us again.
So speaking of Ilona Maher then, so I didn't know Ilona Maher before this tournament. She
A lot
is
of
now
people
the
didn't.
most famous rugby player in the world, has gained 1 million social media followers in 1 week.
Yep.
I can't imagine what that's like.
Which topped her other million, so she's actually at 2.9 million.
Yeah, she's now at 2. Yeah. So I feel kind of lucky that I became aware. I saw her on the pitch before I saw her on social media. I probably will have seen a clip of her before, but my first impression of her was like, Ellis Genge in the men's is known as the baby rhino. I was like, well, this is a full-grown adult mama rhino running with the ball here. My good grief. Like, I messaged David from Scum of the Earth, and he was like, oh yeah, the grass that she runs on is scared of her. Like, yeah, pretty much. And it's a shame that Jazz Joyce has completely ended her career. But that's a joke. But someone talk about her. Someone talk about Ilona Maher, and just that talk about her as a rugby player as well, but also her impact that she is completely just broken everyone's perception of what a women's rugby player can be.
I'm happy to do so. I mean, I've touched enough on what she's done for kind of rugby in America, but her herself, yeah, there's a lot about Ilona, and she capitalizes on this very well. And I think it's a lot of what made her messaging so good is that she has a good finger on the pulse of what's going on with young female athletes in America, the things that they are, I hesitate to say battling, but like what they're coming up against. And she also happens to be somebody who's super social and is really active on social media. And she found the crossroads of those. And I think that she's exploited that well. In terms of who she is, yeah, she's 5'10", 200 pounds. She runs like a beast. She's also very fast. Her teammates like her a lot. She's poised to be a great leader. It's somebody who has a lot of things going for her, and I think there was a little bit of an aspect of right place, right time, but that's okay. Sometimes that's just how you catch it. If nothing else, it was extremely organic. She's
so engaging.
The thing is, she's so engaging. She's so personable. Every story that has come out, they've been mostly American because she tours around here and she lives in Southern California, which is the big rugby hub here. But every story of like random people meeting her is always like a Keanu Reeves effect of like, she's so nice. She did hours. No, she talked to my kid. She like talked to my kid who wasn't even making sense. She played along with it. Of note, like most like all women's rugby players at her level now in America, all of them have careers. Most of them also have degrees. Some are in the military. Military is a big one. Sammy Sullivan is an Army captain. But Ilona is a nurse. She's a registered nurse. She completed nursing school, which, if you are an American listener, is quite grueling in America. And that is, and she still says to this day, she knows that her body will give out. This is another thing that humanizes her. She knows her body will give out. She knows that sports isn't something forever. So it's so important to develop yourself as a person, whether it be your education, whether it be your outlook on life, the connections that you make. And I really think those are the things that make her so appealing. She is an amazing athlete. We love it. Like you said, like what David said, she runs like the ground should be scared of her. She's a really powerful athlete. She's
a great role model. It's just
the thing is, she's a great role model.
I saw a wonderful post that she did.
Is that more important? Is that more important?
And that's the thing.
Is that more important than the player?
Well, that is something
it's the most important thing, but I think it is. I think that it does have a relevance. I think
it is also.
I saw a brilliant post. Sorry, I had to mention this because it was quite personal in a way. But basically, she was calling out trolls, basically. Having a go at her BMI. Oh, she's overweight, all this kind of stuff. And she totally
she's at the Olympics and you're not.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I've I had an eating disorder when I was a teenager, and it kind of like stuff like that really, like when I see people speaking out about stuff like that now, I'm just like, I really admire that. And it's really, she just did it. She just went out and did it and articulated it so well. And that's kind of what I mean by a role model. I think it's setting standards for everybody. It's not like necessarily, oh, like, do you know what I mean? It's just, that's how we should be.
It also causes a knock-on effect. I can't say for sure that the fact that Ilona openly talks about her body a lot and about the kind of horrible comments she gets, but it does just so happen that not long after she started that part of her social media empire, that somebody like Ellie Boatman came out in GB and talked about her body issues. That is
absolutely
something that for women, a lot of the time, the same way as a lot of body issues for us, the same way as talking about your period or reproductive issues, it's something that you don't really feel comfortable talking about until somebody else does. And this is kind of what I was touching on about the importance of in this topic about the difference between women athletes and men athletes, is that, you know, and it doesn't take away from the athleticism or anything, but yes, there is something to be said that women in sports, especially in contact sports, because of the way that we were socialized around them for so long, there is something to be said for somebody who is seen as a good role model and good person other than just an athlete. And, you know, even to take away from the difference between the men and the women, Antoine Dupont came out and said, I think if any of my teammates said something homophobic, I'd like straight up stop them. And that shook the world, because rugby is a really homophobic place, or was for a long time.
He was teammates with Jaminet up until quite recently. But moving on.
True,
he did say homophobic, not racist.
Not racist.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
And he was in a World Cup squad with a convicted racist.
Oh, God.
Exactly. Well, and you know, that's something we could spend a whole other episode on, because that's across men and women's rugby. I think we won't name names at this point, but we've talked about it before, about some of our disappointment about people who've been selected for Wales, who you kind of don't want on your team, but there they are.
Well, that the controversy that came out with the GB7's squad.
We can lightly talk about that. We don't know that much. I did see the picture. It looks like just the stupidest mistake you could make, like the stupidest racist mistake you could make. But you were just wearing a regular like mud mask, and then she was like, let's make it racial. Weird. But hopefully lesson learned there too.
Yeah, let's move on and talk about GB then. So Sean, give us some of your hot takes, okay? So there's safe space here. GB has done really well in the past. At the Olympics, the women's team has. It didn't go great this time, and whilst the results weren't embarrassing score lines, it was considering some of the individuals that were on that pitch, you felt it could have been better. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think when you look on paper, the kind of talent that the squad has, you'd think that we would have done better, basically, isn't it? I think that the first game that they played, I don't know, they just didn't seem in for it. And it's not that they weren't weren't trying. It was just things just weren't working for them. And that was kind of nothing connected. And that kind of just happened the whole way through. And, you know, we talked about Jazz earlier, and it's like she was one of the, I'm hugely biased here, huge fan, but like she was one of the few players who did kind of step up and perform. But I don't know, it just felt quite lackluster from the team.
I'll say, and I wonder, you're all too nice to say it.
No,
compared to what Ellie Kildown did, Jazz rocked up in a big way.
Ellie was quite anonymous.
Only a few people showed up at all was a big part of the problem.
Exactly. I don't think Meg Jones really stood up, and I'm a big fan of Meg Jones.
Exactly.
I thought
the other big one.
Everyone was saying that Meg Jones is up for Player of the Year. Yeah. She was also criminally underutilized.
Yeah. But Meg Jones, I think, is a good example, who had a fantastic Six Nations. I think she was one of the top players. I mean, I know Ellie got a lot of the headlines, but I actually thought Meg Jones was probably, for me, the standout back performer for England.
The PWR Player of the Year too.
I thought she was outstanding, and of course she's got this sevens kind of reputation, but it felt like she'd actually kind of switched to 15s and kind of performed at the top of the game. Is it that is that linked to this? Is it a lot of 15s rugby? It's a lot. It's a long season, going into the Olympics. Then it's a long campaign up to the Olympics, and how much of this is too much 15s and then having to play sevens again. I don't know. I'm just trying to think about it. Is there something with the fact that they're not full time and it's a preparation thing? I don't doubt that they're not working hard and they're not training. Is it a culture thing? One of the reasons why I saw the USA's success did not surprise me. There was something about that culture that they had. I don't know. Culture is really important in any team. I think that's sometimes underlooked.
We know there's been issues in the sevens camp before because they spoke about it on podcasts.
There has been.
I don't know why there is such such pushback on the idea that you don't have to be a crossover rugby player. It's nice if you can. I understand the likes of Antoine Dupont and, I was going to say Ellie Kildunn, but in fact, I will say I was one of the few doubters, and not because I don't think that she's skilled, but because it's okay to be a good 15s fullback. And she's very good. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a sevens player. And I feel more comfortable saying that because we look at somebody like Jazz, who I would actually call more of a crossover player than either Meg or Ellie, because she had to, not because she wanted to. But even still, Jazz has come out and said, and she's like, at one point I kind of had to make my choice, and I did. And it has closed some doors. And for specifically the Welsh and the Scottish, it does close doors if you decide. Because look at Rona Lloyd. But she is my example of, if your union, or I don't know what we call GB because it's not one union, but if your group that runs you isn't going to give you support, which we know they didn't for the Welsh and the Scottish.
Is that a factor as well? Like, obviously England, the rugby union have got a fantastic setup at the moment, and they really know what they're doing. They know they're putting the right people in the right spaces. Blah blah blah. Was there a slight sort of almost a complacency that it would just naturally kind of form into Team GB when it wouldn't?
Well, GB demands so much of your time, and especially to the Welsh and the Scottish having to be co-located in various places, they demand a lot to then make them part-time, which they are.
It does feel, and it was this point that you made, Sharon, with the football team in 2012. It did feel like England and in invitationals, whereas in fact the truth of the matter is that it was the Jazz Joyce Invitational All Stars, and Harley,
that was when the club started.
Yeah, Harley, talk to us a bit about.
Never works, does it? Never works. We know this with live tours. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. So Jazz was clearly the best performer for me on the GB team. The tackle on
Ilona
Maheris was
she's fearless.
The moment of the sevens for me. The thing that I've watched on replay over and over again. But tell us a bit about how do we have this woman in our 15s team and she never touches the ball?
That's a different problem. I was gonna say that has nothing to do with Jazz. Why she can't have the ball? That is not. It's because the ball can't get out there.
Yeah, that is basically because Wales women at the moment are set up for 10-man rugby. Basically, they've no idea how to get that ball from the pack out to the packs. It's just
and how frustrating from how much
it's an annoying. I mean, it's all right for Wales women because they probably have the players they can get away with it. The problem, I hate going back to the men's, but the problem is the men's do the same thing and they haven't got the full 80 players to do it. It's stupid. But yeah, Jazz is just, whenever there was a big moment needed, so when we were down against, back when we were down against China, Jazz comes on, boom, instant impact, breaks through the line, busts through 3 or 4 Chinese defenders. And, she gives you that injection of pace. I think in the first Ireland game as well, she did something similar. She sort of comes on, boom, there was the moment that sort of sparked. The thing for me that I think GB failed on, it's up here. It was a lot of very stupid things. Like not going back or trying to, or like kicking the ball away. I mean, the thing that ultimately lost us that China game, aside from, if we could kick our goals, it would have been a lot more comfortable anyway. But because of that, they were all panicked and then throwing the ball out into touch. Now, That's not a new player, right? That's a very experienced sevens player who did that. She knows that's going to be a penalty.
Yeah.
And they're panicking. And it seemed, even that whole game, it looked like GB were reacting, not.
There was a lot of loss of head.
We've made the last 2 Olympic semi-finals. We are a very good team. We have got red roses here who are some of the best professional women's players in the world. They just, when you look at teams like New Zealand, Black Ferns, actually USA and Canada, the same. They've got this sort of calmness saying, we are the best. And it transitions into how they play. So it's not.
There's really something to be said for practicing together more. Well, Canada and USA, at least, I will tell you right now, those 2 teams, with the exception of somebody amazing like Alev Kelter, with the exception of those, and Sophie de Goody, those teams practice all the time together and dedicate to sevens and to the national team. You definitely can't say that for GB in its current form.
Yeah, agreed. They looked like it a bit. It reminds me a little bit of Wales. It was a little bit like Wales.
That was what it was. You and I were talking about that. It looked the same way as during the Six Nations.
Exactly, this lack of preparation. It kind of just, and at that level, that kind of stuff really matters. It really, really matters at that level.
It's particularly frustrating when you know there was ample preparation. It wasn't that like when we saw with Wales that it was like, did you study? We know that it wasn't, because there's no chance that no team didn't study for the Olympics.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that you didn't do your homework, or if you didn't do your homework, you deserve to lose. But I don't think that's what happened. It seemed more like just complete lack of cohesion.
I actually thought that they were going to lose to China, because like I said earlier, I've been watching China
by the first half, you would have thought.
I've been watching China for a while, keeping an eye on it, and they've been playing for quite a while because they had to qualify and all this kind of stuff. But they were playing really good rugby. So they were so well organized. Exactly, and organized. That's the key. So it kind of didn't surprise me actually that they lost. I was like, actually, that was sort of not.
Actually, I need your guys.
Given how Team GB were playing,
I need your guys' help, because there is a guy who is consulting for China, or consulted for China. I am sure he's some guy I should know, but I don't. And I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Tietjens? Tietjens? Oh, okay. So not somebody people know. Okay. Well, he was consulting, and apparently was a lot of the reason that they rocketed so fast. I don't know. I thought he was like some older male rugby player that you guys would know. Never mind.
Maybe. He might be a dedicated sevens guy, which it's not really on my radar.
Anyway, but to that point, they made the investments. That's another thing.
It does make me think about what you're saying about, like, good 15s players don't, if you're passing between these games, doesn't necessarily work. Like Adam Dupont is a freak, but even then he couldn't do a whole game of sevens.
No,
like when he was a starter for France, he was awful, but he became a fantastic impact player, and great. But like Michael Hooper was probably one of the greatest the greatest sort of athletic sevens who you think would be made for sevens.
Open side sevens.
Yeah,
two different types of
seven
sevens.
as a 7-7. Yeah,
so, it's like 7.
6 if you're in Argentina or South Africa. But anyway, but he couldn't do it. Samu Karevi for Japan, I don't think he looked particularly. I mean, that was a weird one as well. That was when I first watched the first Japan game for the men's, and Samu Karevi was playing for them, and I was like, well, was he not playing for the Wallabies? Anyway, that's another debate. But yeah, it's very hard, and not many players can do it. So, is it really that surprise when you're just trying to throw some high-level Red Roses? You spent all their time in the Red Roses camp over some people who've spent a lot more dedicated time, like Rona Lloyd, who's missed Scotland games, so that she'd be with GB7.
I'm a big fan of hers.
I was going to say, I'm never going to shut up about Rona missing this, because I do truly believe that if Rona had gone in the place of Ellie Kildunn, I do think they would have gotten to the semifinal. I'm sorry. Rona knows how to win matches at the Olympics because she's done it. That's all I'll say.
Absolutely. So we'll draw a line under Olympics chat there. So we're into the any other business end of the podcast. So first off, let's talk about PWR signings. So there's been a lot of movement.
Oh yes, massive movement.
So
can't keep up with it all.
So Jazz has gone to Bristol, which not a surprise. re-signed.
Yeah, that's re-signed. And it was because of GB doing some weird stuff with her contract that she ever had to leave Bears. But yes, as I said when they made that announcement, if she went anywhere else, first of all, I'd be very mad at her, which I know she cares about, and I think probably her wife would hate it.
I don't know. I could imagine if she moved up to like Gloucester or Exeter or something like that. When it got to the derby, she'd be gunning for her.
Yeah,
absolutely. Here's what happens to you after everything you put me through while you were in the Olympics.
Yeah. So that was the one. Al Cal has left Bristol Thunder and is going to Harlequins, which we didn't expect.
Yeah, that was a curveball. Julia was convinced she was going to join Bears.
I really did, only because of who else she was hanging out with, and you would have thought her partner, the former captain of Wales and also a former Bristol captain in Snowy. No, didn't work.
Yeah,
the siren call of the big smoke. I didn't know the Welsh were so susceptible.
Yeah. It's the biggest Welsh signing into Harlequins on either of their teams. I think we'll all agree.
Oh, completely agree. Imagine Al Cal and Jade Conkle playing together. I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
This is why I want the women's Lions. It's for the combos like that.
Sure. Yeah, I think Quins have made some really good.
Quins have made some really remarkable signings this time.
Yeah, they've really made some good signings. I'm so excited for the new season.
It's gonna be so good.
Talk to me about Ealing then. So Ealing are assembling. Ealing have clearly been told, okay, so we're not allowed to do men's, so fine, we'll just do the women's. And everyone's gone, wait, no.
Oh, wait, no, not like that.
Yeah. So who have they got?
I don't actually.
I can't remember all the. They signed Emma Taylor, I know, didn't they? Ealing. Which is a good signing.
No, Ellie Kildun plays for.
No, it's
Ellie Kildun plays for Harlequins.
Yeah, Lisa Thompson or something has gone there, hasn't she?
Oh, Tomo. That's right. Tomo is the Ealing.
Tomo has.
That's what it was.
I was thinking. No, there's a Red Roses back. One of the Red Roses back three players. I've completely blank because there's so many went to them. Oh, they went last season. I don't know if this summer.
Oh, I was going to say
Abby Dow. That's the one. Yes.
Abby Dow.
Yes.
What are they called again? They're not called Trailfinders. What are they called?
They're Trailfinders women. So I'm not seeing. Oh, Trailfinders women is what it is. Sorry, I found it. I don't know that player. Emma Taylor is one of them. Tomo is one of them. Sarah Denham, who is also really big in the Celtic Challenge out of Scotland. Oh man, I forgot about that one because that one hurt my heart.
I forgot about that one. It's been hard to keep up with them all, to be honest.
Yeah, Lisa Thompson, Emma Taylor, Sarah Denham.
Grace
Katie
Moore
Matheson.
Yes, Katie Mattinson and Brooke Bradley. So that's a very, very intimidating.
And Grace White is the other one.
Yeah, and a few names that I'm not super familiar with. They got Chloe Rowley.
Oh, that was the other one.
Yes,
that was the one
that was the one
I was like, oh, okay.
And then a big fan of hers as well.
That's you're not playing around.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's right. Oh right, they got a bunch of sevens players. They got Ellie Boatman. They got Emma Uren. A few people who have been playing in wider pools but are not big names
Emma
right
Uren related to Andy Uren?
All I know is Emma Uren is born Swedish. She just bided her time to be GB. So if he is Swedish, that might be him.
I don't think so. Oh well.
It depends. Depends if he's like the younger lesser brother.
Yeah.
So this is interesting. As I'm looking at all of the new signings, that's very few England qualified players. I wonder what that's going to mean for the EQP requirement. Ever since it came about, it's kind of like shifted between which team is like having the worst problems with it. For a while, it was Exeter. Now they're having no problems at all. It was Loughborough for a while with all the
Didn't
Scots.
Sharks and Tigers both get points deductions because of it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Sharks, I suspect, are really close to it again because they just signed a bunch of Eagles. But they lost a bunch of people. They
really?
lost some Spanish.
It's funny to me that international women's rugby players are living in and around Sale.
I know. It makes me so happy. But what makes me more happy is that they are all being coached by Rachel Taylor.
But I'm from that part of the world, and there are some nice bits and there are some not nice bits. So I'll be interested to know where they're living, because Wesay Naitalevu, who captains Fiji men's, has just signed for Sale, and I'm like, where is he living? He is not living in Stockport, so I want to know where he lives.
Just wait until you see a load of Fiji kit just sort of floating around outside your street, and
well, that's what I asked. I asked someone who knows him, is any of his Toulon stash going? And apparently no. Apparently Fijians send all that stuff back home.
It's fair.
Damn it, he's not willing to give it to some random guy off the internet. Damn it. Okay, that was that. Someone asked me how I feel about Lee Halfpenny signing for Harlequins.
Yes.
No.
I think he only signed because Alcal went. I think
that's what I said.
Yeah, to follow
I think Alcal texted him and was just like, "Have you heard about London?" And he was like, "Oh, word."
So this place called London.
Let's bring my mate Win as well.
I'm Win, yeah, I'm Win.
So to ask, okay, I'll do that first. So Harlequins made a big deal about Lee Halfpenny signing, and there's like loads of graphics. They did more graphics for Lee Halfpenny in the last 10 minutes than Scarlets or Cardiff or Wales have done in the last 15 years. That grinded my gears.
Right, but remember, if Wales makes any graphics, they will be inscrutable.
And they'll probably be copyright claimed. Don't get me started.
He done in paint.
So they did this whole big thing about Lee Halfpenny signing, and then they announced Wyn Jones. So imagine the pitch. Have you seen the Wyn Jones announcement video?
Yes.
So imagine the pitch for so we're going, Lee, big fan. We're going to do your video. It's going to be black and white, and then go to color, and then several shots, and and we've got graphics, and we've got this, and then okay, Wyn. We're going to do your announcement video. So what we're going to do, we're going to film Lee a bit more, and then every shot of your announcement video is going to have Lee in it. Okay. That's
so that people will
basically yes.
Yeah. In fairness, if I were Harlequins and I was making any videos, I'd be like, okay, so we do start on Alcal. And they're like, oh, okay, but like this is a video for Ellie Kildon. And they're like, no, I know. Listen, we start on Alcal.
Well, that's what the video should have been. It should have been Alcal.
That's what I'm saying. And it really should have been half
who's this Lee someone?
Lee something. I don't know. For a long time before I met you guys, I thought that it was pronounced the old way, so I thought he was Lee Halfpenny. I was wrong.
Lee Halfpenny. My dad used to call him Halfpenny.
We always in our house we always called him Halfpenny.
Yeah, I think that's a Cardiff joke thing. Yeah.
So,
although given his indie record, he's more
Cardiff bullying him.
I'm glad to see Lee still playing. You know, I'm a big fan of Lee's as well.
A lot of his peers have gone to Pro De Deux or Japan. He's out here. He's signed for Crusaders for a year, and now he's gone to Harlequins. So he's like, I think
it's nice to see him back. To be honest,
the rest of you.
Yeah.
Even more hilarious. He signed Crusaders
made a lot of people happy.
Yeah. So my dichotomy now is Lee Halfpenny is my favourite player, and he has been since he started playing for Wales. And he signed for my least favourite English team. So I am now very much torn. But my solution to this is that Harlequins have to change their name to London Welsh, because they've got that many Welsh players that it justifies it.
Because it's gone so well for the other London Celtic teams.
London Scottish.
So you don't know the story of London Welsh, do you?
I worst of them. I was going to say, I get the feeling that the fact that they don't exist now is probably enough for me.
Well, they don't exist as a professional outfit. They're amateur only.
Which is technically more existing than London Irish.
I was going to say, now I have a chance of playing for them.
Right. I think that's the end of the news. Any other business? No, I've got silence on the call. Good news. Really. Right. Thank you to everybody for listening. Remember to like and subscribe and share and comments. We will reply as long as you're nice. If you're mean, we'll delete your comment and there'll be no record of you having existed. Thank you to all of my captains and doctors and seniors and criminally underpaid STEM employees. And we shall speak to everybody next time, probably for WXV chat. So enjoy your rugby and we'll see you soon.
All right.
Thanks, y'all.